Okay, welcome everyone to another episode of Warriors Whiteboard Wednesday. For those of you keeping track of this, today is Wednesday, October 9th of 2024. If you're not, you're just catching a recording. Sorry. Anyway. All right. So again, where are we? Somewhere around episode 200. I'll have to go back and count. Anyway, so if you missed them, don't forget you can go to our YouTube channel and go to the live tab. Things are there. I also have a Whiteboard Wednesday playlist and whatnot. We'll try to make sure we put the channel address down there for those of you who are watching on Facebook or something like that. But if you're already on YouTube, right, you have got access to all of these as well as our live Kuden podcast broadcast that we do every Monday evening at 8 p.m. Eastern. All right. So that being said, the topic for this week, Muto-Dori no Tantojutsu. Okay, Muto-Dori, again, unarmed knife defense is very, very brief. We'll go into this much more deeply, but that's the general theme. Okay, so let's start this off with a story, shall we? Okay, so way back in the day, we're talking mid to late 80s, maybe that late. One of the students from Shoshi Malmstrom's dojo, I trained with him for quite a bit, and he was at a bus stop. It was one of those times of day where not very busy, right? And the next thing you know, he gets bumped from behind. He turns around. This guy has this knife out, right? Wants his money, okay? Before he even thought about it, right? Snatched this knife away from the guy, gave it back to him, and said, "Now get out of here," right? And the guy took off and ran, okay? So he came in, really proud of himself. This disarm was easier than he thought, all that kind of stuff, really, really cool. And we just stood there and stared at him. Like, okay, congratulations on a good technique, but you seriously didn't give his knife back to him, did you? Well, yeah, and then he ran off. Yeah, and what if he wouldn't have? Okay, so the point of the story, right, my little moral here, right, is that this highlights just one mistake that comes from this type of training, right? I don't care if it's knife on knife. I don't care what type of training it is, but in this case, we're talking about edge weapons, right? But there's things that we can end up doing in the dojo or in our self-defense classes, whatever you guys are doing, right? That breeds literally a false sense of confidence, okay? As soon as he snatched it and he gave it back, where did that come from? Probably technique training in the dojo or in the self-defense class where we're practicing this disarm and we hand it to our partner and then we do it again and we hand it to our partner. It's this redundancy training, okay? And I talk about this in lots of places, whether we're out on the gun range and, people are pulling out the magazine and stick it in the pocket before they grab another one. And my lesson is drop the damn thing on the ground. Ooh, do you know how expensive they are? I don't know, more expensive than your life. But there's all these little things that go on. And what people will often say is, well, Sensei, come on, man, I wouldn't do that out on the street. This is just one of many stories, okay? And this isn't the only thing, right? I mean, there's a lot of bad habits within this realm of what we in the dojo call dojo syndrome. It's just this really bad illness that people can pick up because of the sterilization and the safety that goes on within the dojo. Because we need to remember one huge, ginormous thing, and that is that the dojo is not the fight environment. It's not the survival environment. Okay, it's a place to train. It's very safe. The ground's very flat. The floor is very flat. No obstacles in the way. Everything's moved off to the side. People aren't allowed to lay their training tools or their training bags or whatever out in the training area and stuff because they're trip hazards. But in your living room, your office, out on the street, everything from desks to coffee tables to kids' toys. Legos are the worst, right? Imagine having to defend yourself at, I don't know, late at night, right? And this guy's in your house and you heard a noise and you go downstairs and then you're trying to defend yourself and step on one of these damn Legos or one of your kids' trucks or whatever that slides out from under your feet. Yeah, no, Sensei, my Taijutsu was awesome. I don't see the point of learning this ukemi and these break falls because, if I'm just good enough that I don't fall down, you're okay. Right? But curbs on the street, all kinds of stuff, right? And so, again, it's just, it illustrates just one kind of thing. A couple of other ones, like helping your partner up after the technique is over, right? You put them down, you might lock them up or whatever, and then they're getting to get up off the ground, or you're getting to get up off the ground because you were the bad guy or the uke, right? And one or the other reaches down and helps the other person up. Well, it's just being nice. Yeah, I know, but you wouldn't do that to a guy on the street. And on top of that, you're robbing your training partner of the opportunity, or they're robbing you of the opportunity to practice to roll out of that space or roll to their feet and establish or reestablish a safe and secure position, right? As opposed to getting up like a freaking toddler, right? Hand, foot, stand up. We're training for self-defense and survival, not, well, I mean, if you're training just to collect kata to make sure you have them all, ignore everything I'm about to say, and it'd probably be a good idea to just hit the back button, because this is not, the rest of this is just going to be for idle curiosity or for the super egos to be able to quote back to other people as if they know. Okay. So anyway, but helping your partner up after the technique is over, not holding attention on the uke for at least 2, 3, 4 seconds after the takedown, or after you've disengaged and you're moving away, right? To watch what they're doing. Yeah, I know, but the demonstration or whatever the technique was, teacher demonstrated, it's over. I know. Has nothing to do with the technique. It has to do with maintaining single pointed focus on watching what they're doing, right? Because we're training everything, right? We have to get over the misguided belief system that the beginning of the kata, uke, tsuki, right? And the end of the kata is the beginning and end of the fight. No, something came before it. Unless there's certain kata, right, where he's got you in a full Nelson, or he has a bear hug or whatever, which these are what if situations, right, where you couldn't keep the attacker in front of you, you were blindsided, that kind of thing. In which case you have to neutralize that, and it's a different kind of thing. But 70% of our freaking techniques have them in front of us. We're controlling that situation and whatnot. Again, this is in October of 2024. Next month, excuse me, next month we're doing our annual fall camp, and the theme for this one is body, mind, spirit integration. Right? And I know body, mind, spirit. It's such a cliche in the martial arts, right? Everybody knows it. Everybody does it, right? But in it, now I will have other instructors doing breakout sessions on other cool shit like psychology, and one's doing codes and ciphers, and somebody else is doing punching and throwing with little to no touching, that kind of stuff. Yeah, how do you punch somebody without touching them? Okay. Anyway, and it's not that woo-woo shit that you see on YouTube with people like whipping their finger around and people bouncing around and having a epileptic fit. But for my teaching sessions, every technique that we do, we're going to do taiden, right? Which is what everybody understands, right? They see the demonstration, they use their body against their partner's body, right? Ta-da, okay? But we're also going to do the kuden, right? The kokoro. What is the mind doing? Not just for the whole thing. What's the end result? But where should your mind be at each phase? And there's multiple levels, right? What result are we trying to get? What's the strategy or the tactic? What's that thing, right? What's this thing supposed to do? And how will I know whether or not I have that result so that I can go on to the next piece, or I need to do that again or something else very, very quickly to create that, whether it's a sense of unbalance or whatever it is, right? So I'm not just step by step going through bullshit, choreographed dance moves, and just basically running into the bear's cave and hoping for the best. Okay. So what's the body doing? What should the head be doing, or where should it be in any given moment? Like this at the end, right? We've disengaged, right? But I'm going to hold my attention on them as I'm backing out, because I need to know, right? For those of you who've gone through the 5 Ds of effective self-defense strategy, those 5 phases that any physical clash goes through, not 5 steps, 5 phases. beginning and end, right? Discern. I'm paying attention to how he's maneuvering, what his body's doing, what he's wearing, all that kind of stuff, because I can develop some tactics and whatnot around that to use those kind of things against him, or to know what he's going to do because I've done my freaking research. And instead of just scrolling shorts or whatever on YouTube or TikTok about martial arts techniques, I'm watching critically, right? Like a football coach covers other team plays and dynamics and preferences and whatnot with his team because they're about to meet up in 2 weeks, right? We're going to prep for these guys so that as soon as we see what they're doing, we know exactly what to do and how to intercept that stuff, right? So, so we can read that kind of stuff. But there's a discern at the end. What are we doing there? Well, I need to know one of three things. Is this guy down and out? Is he getting back up and running his ass off to get as far away from me as possible, right? Both of those are like the ideal, right? Everybody likes to think that, yeah, that's going to be it, right? Or is he getting back up and coming at me, right? That's three basic things. Now, he could be down and out, and one of his friends or more of his friends come and jump my ass, and that's the next phase, okay? But either way, we've got what the body's doing, what the head's doing, and then what's the heart doing, right? What are you projecting? What's your intent, or what are you supposed to be masking, right? How does that translate through your strikes or through your technique and that kind of thing? Or is it just like we're either zero off or soft training, or we're just like doing that kind of thing, which I'll address during this class and this training as well. Okay. And another really big thing that happens in training is got a couple of students, and they're not beginners either, that are just hugely guilty of this, right? And you know what? Truth be told, so was I way back in the day, okay? And that is talking to yourself during the execution of the technique. Okay, so step here, and then a step around, make sure my arm's here, and he's supposed to be, right? One, that slows you way down because your left brain processes things way more slowly because of doing that. Two, your head's not paying attention to what's going on. It's paying attention to the step-by-step of the dance moves, right? Whole bunch of stuff going on there, right? And you're actually training yourself to spend all your time over here in this slow step, right? I mean, in the dojo, we use the left brain to train the multi-level, multifaceted parts of the right brain, subconscious, unconscious, muscle memory, those kind of things, so that's what's going to lead when you get in there. It's kind of like driving. If you've been driving for any significant amount of time, can you imagine talking to yourself about the driving process as you're going? Oh, he's not stopping at that stop sign. Right foot to the brake pedal and then depress. Oh, shit, right? Insurance companies will be paying way more out, right? Anyway, all right, so during today's strategy and tactic session, because that's what we're focusing on, right? No dancing monkey during this one. That's what we're doing on Friday, right? I'll dance and perform and all that, but that class costs some money. So anyway, if you want to sign up for that, there's the link for it. Some of you guys are regulars, other ones, whatever, okay? So what we're going to be taking a look at is defending against the knife-wielding attacker from the perspective where we are, quote-unquote, unarmed, right? I say that because that's the literal definition, and that's what it is in most martial arts, but we're not most martial arts. In ninjutsu, right, things take on a whole different connotation, okay? So to do that, we're going to be looking at 4 things, right? And I really hate to have a list of 4 things because in Japan, 4 is the unlucky number. In the States, it's 13. In Japan, 4. Anybody that's ever been there, if you break away from just going to the convenience store or Caesarea or wherever you eat Western food between sleeping and going to training and bullshitting or drinking beer or whatever, and you go to department stores or whatever, you might have noticed that they don't sell things in sets of 4. Here, we get sets of 4, sets of 2, sets of 8, whatever. But in Japan, they don't do things in sets of 4, right? So it's a sake set, you'll get a flask and 2 glasses, or you get a flask and 4 glasses, right? Little cups, right? Whatever. They'll sell things in sets of 2, 3, 5, whatever. No 4, okay? Because one of the words for 4 is shi, right? It's the Chinese transliteration into Japanese, right? Shi, okay? You don't wish somebody a happy 4th birthday because you have to say shi. Okay? You can wish them a happy birthday. You can wish them well. You can give them gifts, but you don't say congratulations on becoming 4, because if you switch out that kanji and you use an alternate, the word shi also means death, okay, or being dead, right? So that's the bad luck number. Right? Anyway, all right, so we're going to do 4 things, right? So we're going to take a look at the #1 rule of knife defense, period, bar none, hands down, whatever. Will you find this in the scrolls? Nope. Okay, just like you won't find it's important to breathe in the scrolls, right? It's important to know how to walk and maintain balance in the scrolls, because the scrolls start where somebody already should be when they're looking for that next advanced level. Okay, people get all freaked out when I say that our scrolls don't have beginner levels. Yes, they do. Shoden, Jodyaku. That's where a person new to the training starts, but there's no, right, stances, how to strike, how to kick, whatever. That gets taught as a kuden or to people who need it. But in ancient Japan, most of the people that came to the training already had lots of heads in their closet. That's a euphemism for they've been in battles and they've killed people, okay? And they're looking for more advanced stuff. So you don't need to teach them that kind of stuff, okay? Yes, they do. They have a kamae thing in the Kotoryu. The Kurai-Dori scroll has 5 kamae on it. Yeah, it does. What the hell does kamae, body, mind, spirit, attitude, postures, combat postures, have to do with catching space? Kurai-Dori, right? Maybe there's something else going on, and because of you having to make your own frickin' ink, and the soot, stick, and water, and how long that takes just to make a little bit, and the expensive paper, that maybe the shit that's written down is summarized. And the rest of it is passed on kuden or shinden. Okay, maybe. I could be wrong. I wasn't there. Anyway, right, so #1 rule of knife defense, we're going to take a look at key principles for physically defending against an attacker with a knife. Just going to take a look at 3 today. And then we're going to take a look at the concept of Muto-Dori, what it is. And again, 3 core principles for Muto-Dori. And there's a chunk of change in there, okay? And then we will be looking at, I will be giving you a list of 7 skills and concepts for mastering Muto-Dori, not mastering Muto-Dori kata, okay? Actually being able to manage a situation where you're unarmed, which is almost never, okay? And that's a whole mindset. We'll get to that, okay? So anyway, before we do that, don't forget, right, to share, you know, that kind of stuff, right? If you're on YouTube, most of you are, subscribe, hit the like or hit the notification bell and whatnot so you don't miss any of these things. Okay, so let's just jump in. First and foremost, where's my marker? First and foremost, okay, the #1 rule of knife defense. I don't care if you have one, don't have one, whatever, especially if you're quote unquote unarmed. I'm going to say that for a while till I get there, okay? Is if you don't have to deal with a knife wielding attacker, don't. Right? Contrary to popular belief and the fantasies that people carry around in their head, right? Especially those who have never, ever been inside that freaking bubble where they had to save their lives, okay? Because if you've ever been there, 1, you will treat this space around you like it's sacred space, right? How you go about operating for the rest of your life, okay? A lot of people shut down, but the rest of us, I've been in counterterrorism for decades. I still tell my wife where to sit when we go into a restaurant. I sit, that kind of thing, right? Still offend some people who don't understand it. Your husband tells you where to sit, and she goes, yeah, because he wants me to be safe, right? And he needs to be able to operate if something happens, okay? A knife, it just one attacker, a knife defense scenario. I don't give a shit if you have one or not. Somebody coming at you with a knife is one of the most dangerous situations you could ever face, right? And you need to understand that up front, okay? So let's take a look at 3 key principles, right? So we're going to assume that everything that we do after that point, if you've ever seen any of my trainings on knife defense, that always leads off. So we're going to assume that everything else that we do, we either could not escape or use one of the other tactical or strategic phases on our 8-phase framework. Couldn't do that. And so we were forced to do it, or I can't just take off because my kids are still in a seat right here, or my grandkids now, or my wife or whatever. And so, you know, I could haul ass, but now what's she going to do? Okay. So if I choose to stay, it's because ideologically, morally, ethically, or by strategic choice, I can't, right? I cannot in good conscience. If you're a cop, security, military, whatever, you know what this is like as well. Okay. So you have to stay and hold down the fort, so to speak, right? Until backup arrives, if it arrives, right? All right. So key principles, right? And again, this is for physically defending. Okay. This is physically defending. There's a bunch of other stuff we're going to be looking at as well. That when I'm talking about this, it's the actual physical combative situation. Okay. There's obviously things that lead to it. There's things that will happen afterwards, that kind of thing, right? It's why the Japanese masters also teach that, you know, you may save somebody from a Yakuza thug at a train station. Yes, actual discussions I've had with Japanese Shihan. Now it's okay, right? Yeah, right. You may do that, but it's a hit and run kind of tactic. You can get the hell out of there, okay? And you never kill them, right? And the reason for that is you'll be looking over your shoulder and the shoulders of your family and friends, because if they can identify you, that's even worse than dealing with somebody with a knife, right? If it's a random attack, great. If you are being targeted, that's nearly impossible to deal with long term, okay? And even if it's not you, in an attempt to find out who you are, they will hurt way more people, right? So the ability to see big picture and outside of our own friggin' ego, huge, okay? All right, so very quickly, right? I would say in no particular order, but there is a priority, but that's dependent on the situation. So, right? But this one, I think it tends to be the one that leads, right? So this is controlling distance, okay? This is my marker. Just going to put the word on here once. Okay, be too close or too far to get cut. Okay, too close or too far to get cut. Right. You need to understand how the arm works. There's a whole bunch of things that go on, and we'll talk about that over here. Okay, so the ability to do any given technique or have a technique be street ready takes a lot more than just learning the moves or just being able to spar or whatever. Okay. Again, if you're one of the folks that have been to one of my trainings or any one of my trainings where I cover what I call my 0-point framework, where we'll take actually there's a worksheet for it, right? So what you'll have is this kind of thing, right? And the line in the middle on the paper is the 0 point. And that's where the name of the kata gets written. And then what we have is a +5, we have a +10, we have a -5, we have -10. And so everything below the 0 line are all the skill sets, mental things, all that we have to get right to be able to do the kata correctly. And then everything above the 0 line, +10, is street ready. Right? So everything above the 0 line are all the things that we have to learn, soft and hard skill sets that we have to do, drills, all that kind of stuff to ingrain that thing into us so that we can use it in a real life survival situation. Well, Sensei, that's a whole lot of freaking work. Yeah. I don't know. Life or death survival is not, and even the military knows that the 6 or 8 weeks of basic training that you're getting, the primary point of that is to cover a broad range of skill sets to make sure that you qualify and a whole bunch of yelling and fucking screaming at you to make sure that you qualify, and to dump a whole bunch of stress on you to make sure you can operate as a team player. The whole damn thing is a vetting process to get rid of the people who will not be able to serve as a member of a team under fire when everybody else is depending on you for their lives and safety. Okay? Basic training isn't enough. Most of your training takes place at your first duty station afterwards. They round all that kind of stuff out. Okay? It's not enough. And in combat, depending on your position, one of my roles in the very early stages, when I was a military policeman, in a combat zone, my job was an M60 gunner on top of a Jeep. See how old I am? Okay, on top of a Jeep, right? The average lifespan of that position, okay, during a firefight is 13 seconds. 8 weeks is too long. Okay, the average self-defense situation is over in 2 to 10 seconds. It's not my idea. Statistics. So anybody that thinks that because I'm fat, because I'm old or whatever, I can't last a 2-minute round, a 5-minute, Jesus Christ, seriously? That's fucking forever. Right? Could it last that long? Yeah. So that's why I learned how to conserve energy and be able to do certain things, hit and run, give myself little moments to recharge, get as much of my breath back as possible before I have to re-engage. Okay? This is all about fighting strategically, not fighting with brute strength. Okay? But 13 seconds. That was my first wake-up call. Anyway, all right, so be too close or too far to get cut. Okay? There's a whole bunch of stuff that goes into that. I'm just covering the basic principles, right? Next one is blade awareness. All right? For all the smartasses out there, this doesn't mean that I'm aware that he has a blade. No shit. Okay? That means to know where that blade is at all times. Okay? Just like when I'm doing gun defense. Know where the muzzle is at all times. Okay? Yeah, but what if I get out of the way and he stabs somebody else? I can't save anybody if I'm dead. Okay? And I'm sorry that that thing happened, and I will feel bad and all that, but they wouldn't have died if douchebag here wouldn't have been doing his thing. Okay? I'm feeling a little froggy today. Sorry. Anyway, so blade awareness is always knowing where it is. So again, it's not going to, it's not going to sneak into a spot where he can just keep jabbing at me and stuff like that, right? So huge piece, right? The other one is mindset. Okay, so this is distance, right? This is part mindset, but it's part dynamics and strategic tactical movement and positioning while things are going on, right? This last one is pure mentality, okay? And this is knowing. You have to know this in your heart of hearts, kind of like that 13-second thing and, whatever, okay? Is that you're going to get cut. You're going to get cut. You're going to get stabbed. Okay? Nowhere in the scrolls does it say that this training will make you invincible. Okay? It allows you to be harder to kill. It allows you to be the hardest person, if you stick with it, to be the hardest person in any room to kill. Okay? But it's a blade. You're going to get poked. You're going to get cut. Right? All blade masters, all sword masters back in the day, when they died, right, they're prepped for their cremation or whatever, their bodies were covered in scars. Right? But see, there's a difference between a near miss and bad things really happening. Right? So to this point right here, knowing that you're going to get cut, your job is not to not get cut. Your job is to not get cut or stabbed so badly that the TV gets turned off. Okay. And I see the numbers going up and down about who's following and stuff like that, right? Some people do not want to hear this shit, right? Because it violates ego's fantasy of being the guy in the movie who rushes into a 10-story building with 500 fucking mafia guys with Uzis, and I'm going to take him out with a sword. Right? You may take him out to dinner before you get, right? But you're not taking out very many before you get hosed, right? But to this point, right, we need to prioritize, okay? So above all else, right, we need to guard what my teacher used to call, and what I still call, the 5 gates and life supporting systems. Okay. The point is not to not get cut. The point is not to not get stabbed. The point is to not get cut or stabbed in a place or in a way that the movie's over. Okay. So the 5 gates are the neck, insides of both arms, and insides of both legs. Okay. All your vascular stuff here, windpipe, carotid, jugular, your vagus nerve that keeps your heart pumping, your phrenic nerve that keeps your diaphragm working. There's one on either side, right? So we're bilateral. Okay. So we understand that. All your life-sustaining tubes on the human body are on the inside, the parts that rest up against the torso itself. You've got broad muscle and very little out here. You have nothing out here on the outside of the thighs and all that kind of stuff. It's not that you're not going to bleed. It's not that muscles can't be, cut and, you're not going to be able to function well and all that, but you're not going to bleed to death. Okay. You're not going to have certain important electrical channels disconnected so that things don't function, right? You can have fibers cut to where contracting doesn't do anything down the line, but that's like a cable or pulley getting screwed up in a machine, right? You take out the computer processor and stuff like that, everything goes down, right? You pull the plug on it, everything goes down. You cut main wires, right? Nothing's going to work. Okay. So all the life-sustaining things are on the inside, so you protect them literally with your life. And then, of course, you're always careful with the kill zone right here. It's generally speaking about a 4-inch. Now, it goes a little bit wider because of lungs, but 4-inch by 11-inch. Okay? We do this on the gun range as well, because when you hit that, the whole system shuts down because the spinal column is behind that. But branch out to about, 8 by 14, 15, depending how tall you are. It's going to be longer, right? All the way down to the hip pockets because of the femoral nerves and femoral arteries. Okay. Those hoses that you have in your legs that will swell, that collectively will hold all the blood in your body. That's why G-suits that pilots wear and astronauts wear constrict the legs to keep all the blood in the upper body. Because when they first invented planes, or they first invented came up with barrel rolls and hitting higher and higher speeds and things like that, right? Especially on upshoot kind of things, the blood would all rush to people's legs and they'd pass out and then the plane would crash. So the first thing they did was invented autopilots. Okay? Or maybe the first thing they invented was the bands, and then they invented autopilots so it would correct, just in case you didn't wake up, right? But the whole idea is to keep the blood in the upper body, right? So all this points to prioritization, right? Not just memorization of technique. Okay? So anyway, all right. What's number 2? Number 3, right? So let's jump into the concept of Muto-Dori. Okay. The essence of Muto-Dori means unarmed, or it means muto, literally in Japanese. Mu is lacking or without. To, blade. Okay. Dori means to catch, seize, capture, that kind of thing, right? So it doesn't literally mean unarmed blade defense or whatever. It means, or it implies, that he has a blade and I don't. So it's unarmed against a blade. But in ninjutsu, specifically in the Bujinkan and all the other kans, Jinin-kan, Genbukan, that kind of thing, this is not, one, limited to him having a blade. He could have any weapon. Okay? And this is not about me not having a weapon. What it really is pointing to is it's a seriously disadvantaged position, right? Because the essence of certain types of training, even when we're holding, let's say yesterday's master's class here at the academy, right? On the black belts and the Shinobi Kai and stuff like that. We're working on Tantojutsu. We're doing it last night and we're doing it on Friday because I'm using those as bonus trainings in my Mod 3 curriculum for students, right? So last night we did blade on blade. Friday we're doing unarmed against a blade. But blade on blade or not, blade on blade is still Muto-Dori. Well, how's it Muto-Dori? You have a blade. It's close in fighting. Okay, it's the same as Taijutsu. That short weapon doesn't do a whole lot for you, right? It's icing on the cake. because your taijutsu still needs to rule, right? You don't have the benefit of distance. So Tantojutsu, Shuko Jutsu for the ninja and the clan and the family, right? Togakure, Koto, their secret weapon. The Shuko, these farming tools, hand claw kind of things. Jute Jutsu, Tessen Jutsu, right? The jute little hook kind of thing. Any small weapon like that. The essence of that training is always Muto-Dori. Okay? Always Muto-Dori, right? So literally it's this disadvantaged kind of situation, but the essence is avoidance of strength. Muto-Dori, the whole thing about Muto-Dori, right, is avoidance of strength. Okay, so the essence lies in avoiding direct confrontation. We're not nose to nose, toe to toe, trading shots, hoping that my skull or body can take more shots than his and things like that, right? In Japanese, this direct confrontation idea, right? Reliance on physical strength, energy, power, what you normally see in sport contests or 3 steps outside caveman fighting kind of stuff that you see in, you know, high school hallways, bar fights, whatever, right? That is called chikara kurabe, okay? Chikara kurabe, okay? So chikara, the word chikara, it's kanji right here, right? The meaning of it is strength. What do we have here? Strength, power, force, that kind of stuff, right? And so what this emphasizes is physical strength and energy, right? So in a lot of martial arts and a lot of fight systems, okay, it more often than not refers to the raw physical capability of an individual, right? Including muscular strength, combative effectiveness, or combat effectiveness, that kind of stuff. That's why if you look at a lot of the videos that I have, right? Yeah, sporting extra weight, older, right? People call me Santa, whatever, okay? Look at most of the comments. Couldn't last a 2-minute, 5-minute round. You know, you're a piss poor example of, you know, what a martial artist should look like. And they're really coming at this from this chikara kurabe perspective, right? Because their whole mindset is wrapped around duking it out. This is not the ninja way, as they would say in the movies, right? Okay. So it's really about this kind of thing, which is like, we'll talk about it in a minute. It's really frowned upon in our realm, okay? So next kanji, kurabe, right? Now this one down here, this you'll see this at the end when it's written out. This is a kana, okay? It's the kana for be, right? So kana at the end of a word, conjugate the word, right? So if you see kanji, kanji, kana, that kana is telling you how to pronounce, right? So instead of karaberu, maybe, okay? It'll tell you how to conjugate it. It's like shinobi, right? Person, okay? Enduring person who is able to get in, infiltrate, that kind of thing, right? Shinobi, ninja, right? The word, the verb, because Japanese is verb oriented, not noun oriented, right? Is shinobu, to enter, to steal in, right? To be stealthy. It's a verb, right? So by putting the I kanji at the end of it, it now identifies that as a noun. It's the person capable of that thing, okay? So very different, right? So we can ignore this one down here. This kind of indicates it indicates comparing things, right? So that's the only thing. I'm just going to paraphrase this, right? There's other things here, but it's comparison, right? It's implying that we're comparing one thing with another, okay? So, and that's what karabe means. Karabe means to compare, to match, to contrast, right? So to compare, to match, to contrast. What the hell is that? All right, well, hold on to that thought, okay? But compare, to match, right? Anybody that's using this mindset, chikara, strength, power, focus, is always going to compare everybody else based on what they determine is equal or better, who should win based on strength, power, size, that kind of stuff, right? So whenever you see or hear somebody describing something or putting something else down or raising something else up and aspiring to that thing, okay, that's the litmus test, okay? What are they comparing? How are they comparing it to? Big guys, right? See a little guy like me or an old fat guy like me doing a certain thing, right? Go to some of the stuff on our website or Facebook pages or whatever, right? And you'll see, you know, not a lot because most people are smarter than that, okay? But you'll see laughing emoji or fake or whatever, right? That's great, right? One of the lessons from Hatsumi Sensei a long time ago: don't re-educate the masses. Okay, we're going to use their ignorance against them, which is okay. You know the old saying, "Pride goes before the fall." Let them be prideful. Okay, understand it, understand their cognitive gaps, and shinobu, steal in, enter in, and operate through those cognitive gaps. Because by the time they realize what's going on, right? By the time they got out of their own way and actually see what's actually going on and not what they assume to be happening, which is what catches most of us, right? Too late. Okay, it's too late. All right. So to compare, to match, right? Think about sport fights, boxing, MMA, all that kind of stuff. What are they doing, right? For the most part, they're matching gender, they're matching size, they're matching weight class, they're matching experience level, even in karate tournaments, right? Have to be a certain belt level to compete in this thing, right? Up here, whatever, right? Sometimes they have open things, right? But it's to match, right? And sometimes that compare or match or whatever is just these two people. One could be short, one could be big, whatever, but they both think they're the guy, right? So either way, right? It's all about this thing, right? But if you listen to most of these people operate in the world, everything's a damn contest. Everything is something to be conquered or whatever, okay? And it works for them for the most part, okay? And when it doesn't, well, then they become alcoholics or kill themselves or whatever, okay? So Chikara Kurabe, this is one of those things that whenever you see this term, okay, especially this karabe, right? It implies comparative action, right? It suggests that one is assessing or measuring one's strength against another's, one's power against another's, one's bank account against another's, that kind of thing, right? So it carries the connotation of competition or confrontation, okay? And if it doesn't carry it, it's going to lead to it, okay? Because everybody's walking around with a chip on their shoulder, and all it's going to take is a bump or whatever, and then say that's now a challenge. That's now something to be put down, okay? And then, as I said in a recent class, if you can't handle this well, you may find that you may win that little battle or whatever. But well, here's an example. I'm running right now a promotion on Facebook for a 6-week introductory program that we're doing called Protect Yourself and Others. It's really targeted toward like dads, family men, couples and whatnot. Women can still join. That's not the thing. But I tend to communicate to one particular type of person because I can be more clear, right? And this is the thing that people often get wrong when they're promoting their training groups or whatever. They can't understand why they don't have more people than they do, or it keeps rolling over. And it's because they try to communicate to everybody, and their message lands on nobody, right? Or it's just way too vague, or they pepper it with all kinds of fucking Japanese that people can't pronounce. They have no idea what your reference points are, and the promotion or the flyer or the business card or whatever says nothing about the benefits you're going to gain. Well, it's a benefit to train with the Grandmaster of the Ninja. To who? Says who? Only to somebody that, okay? Now, I have lots of gratitude for getting the lessons and stuff, okay? But he's one of the most down-to-earth Grandmasters I've ever met, okay? But what are they going to be able to do better, more easily, or whatever? How will the quality of their life and their ability to do things, their confidence, their discipline, their ability to control situations and whatnot that they're in, how will that be better as a result of the training? Most people, sorry, it's true. My shit used to look the same, right? 90% of Bujinkan websites and other con websites and whatnot, they all look the same. They all look the same, right? Same graphics, same whatever. So the only people you're attracting are people that don't need to be sold on it. They're just looking to see if there's a place close to their house, so they don't have to travel too far. Because, you know, who would want to do that, right? Anyway, so here's what it is, right? Anyway, so again, combined meaning of this Chikara Karabe is that it translates to matching of strength, right? The normal translation of this term is matching of strength or comparison of strength, right? That kind of thing, right? It implies a direct competition or confrontation in terms of physical power, but it can also imply financial power, all that kind of stuff, right? Okay, so but this is different in ninjutsu. Okay? I already mentioned this earlier. It's different in ninjutsu, and it especially, again, within the cons, right? Bujinkan, Jininkan, right? So instead, the idea, right, instead of using the idea of comparing strength, right, the focus is more on the nuanced meaning of, and I use this in the original definition, assessing and measuring. Okay, so in a future training, Whiteboard Wednesday, maybe a seminar or something like that, I'm going to do a lesson on comparing that part of Chikara Kurabe, that measuring and assessing, to two really important concepts: uke nagash, right, which most people just think of as blocking. And remember, as we define things, that's where the ceiling is for us. That's what limits everything that we do. Uke nagash, and this concept of jiu, which I'm going to be doing as another one as well. I think I'm going to do that either this week coming up or next week in our Monday evening Kuden podcast kind of things. So anyway, all right. So this assessing and measuring, right? So again, within ninjutsu, specifically the Bujinkan or whatever, okay, there's some nuances to this, okay? In the context of what we're doing, our philosophy emphasizes the avoidance, right? Just avoiding head-on clashes, wrestling matches, those kind of things. You know, people are doing a technique, they're practicing and all that, and all of a sudden they lose it, and so they latch on, right? They regress to 3-year-old toddler or caveman or whatever, and then you're wrestling. Of course, you're wrestling. He's wrestling, that kind of thing. Bad place, because the first person whose glycogen wears out in the muscles, and or the endurance runs out, or luck operates against them, right? We're right back to the omote of Chikara Kurabe, which is we're now matching strength. We're now matching power, right? Which is why I always teach students, if you find yourself heading in that direction, or you find yourself there, immediately do something, spit in his eye, whatever, and bail to come on, right? You'll immediately know what to do next because you've been there a lot. And you reset the fight to 0, and he has to come in again, okay? Because, of course, we're not throwing the first shot, because if you throw the first shot, you're the attacker. That doesn't make you the bad guy. It just means that you're sacrificing something that you're hoping he doesn't exploit. No. Okay. Anyway, so we're avoiding strength competitions, right? So this philosophy emphasizes utilizing strategy, timing, and technique, right, rather than relying solely on brute strength. Okay. Again, I'll talk about GU and all that kind of stuff later. This leads directly into what we're talking about with this Muto-Dori. Okay. This assessing and whatnot, right? Muto-Dori, this principle specifically illustrates avoidance. Muto-Dori is heavy, right? Again, it means taking without a sword, whatever, okay? But it's about defending against an attack without using a weapon, so you're already at a disadvantage, okay? So I already mentioned some weapons and whatnot: tanto, shuko, jite, even a handgun, right? I may have drawn it and realized, shit, he doesn't have a gun, doesn't even have a knife, okay? In the laws of the places where I live, and in most other places in the world, not all, because there's some places, man, there's still like the freaking Old West here in the U.S., okay? I can't shoot this guy, okay? that's way outside of self-defense doctrine, use of force, that kind of thing, right? So I might have to, now what do I do with it? Well, it's a 4 or 5 pound truncheon. Okay, so as he comes in, I can hit him with it. I can lever, hit Kyusho, those kind of things, right? Because I don't want to risk putting it down, or worse yet, do the shit they do in the movies, right? Toss the weapon away so we can see who's going to end up on top. Sells tickets. Okay, if people sold tickets to funerals, it would sell those too. Okay. Anyway, so again, there's this idea of strategy over power. Okay, and this leads into, I've done some recent classes: Tobijutsu, leaping, Tai Sabaki, right? That kind of stuff. These are skills which provide practitioners with ways to evade and counter attacks without relying on head-on physical strength. Okay, ninjutsu is all about being the smaller, weaker, disadvantaged person and being able to win, because common sense says, right, you're supposed to lose. Okay? Hopefully, well, see, a lot of people don't, because they think that ninjutsu is just more powerful because of all the techniques and all the weapons and all that kind of stuff. No, it's more powerful because of options and mentality and strategy and tactics and those kind of things. That's why I always say that ninjutsu is not a real martial art. Okay, and before you get your feathers all ruffled up, I'm not talking about it not being a martial art, because martial just means warfare. Okay, but when I say it's not a real martial art, not in the way most people think of it. Okay, it's not a style of martial arts. Okay, there's way more to it. Okay, this is how spies would fight if they got caught in the process of collecting information, hiding among the masses, whatever. Oh shit, that is what it was. Anyway, so and again, it emphasizes flow and adaptability, all that kind of stuff, right? So again, just to kind of wrap this piece up before we go on to the next piece, is the principle of Chikata Kurabe. It serves as a reminder, right, to avoid strength-based confrontations in martial arts, in self-defense. Okay, instead, we're encouraged to embrace adaptability, strategy, the underlying principles of ninjutsu, right, to navigate conflicts effectively. Okay, so again, by focusing on techniques, and when I say technique, I'm not talking about like, you know, whether I'm throwing a ganseki or whatever. Okay, it's understanding the dynamics of movement. In that way, we can gain a greater level of proficiency, right, and resilience in our training, right? We're more adaptable, all that kind of stuff. Okay, so instead of engaging with an attacker's force, we tend to lean toward using timing, spatial awareness, evasion, attack redirection, that kind of stuff. Okay, so again, in future training, I'll do something else. Okay, that was just one, right? Number one, right, was avoiding this head-on kind of thing, as far as the core essence, right? So avoid clashing. Okay, avoid brute strength, avoid trading shots, and let's just see what happens. Screw that. Okay, right? All these bullshit movies and stuff. Imagine how short a ninja movie would be if, instead of having 2 hours of storytelling and navigating, and then ninja masses attack, you know, the samurai forces and whatnot, you just have a ninja that sneaks into the samurai camp the night before and poisons a freaking water supply. No battle. Have a nice day. Okay, you don't even have to worry about going home. We'll bury your bodies, because if we don't, you'll stink up the place. Okay, all right, number two is flow and adaptability. I already talked about that, right? We touched on all of these as a part of avoiding Chikata Kurabe, right? Flow and adaptability, right? Adapt to an attacker's movements, respond, flow with what they're doing, respond fluidly, right, to changes in a situation. That's another one of those things that I should have talked about earlier on, when people, bad habits in a dojo. People get fixated on technique. Now, there's a time for that. It's a certain stage in training where you have to learn the technique. You have to get that right. Okay. Unfortunately, there's a whole bunch of people that learn things inside out, right? Henk a lead, but how do you vary something you can't do well anyway? Okay? It's kind of like when people quote Hatsumi Sensei, right? Hatsumi Sensei said, forget technique, right? Throw away the kata. How the hell do you forget something or throw something away that you never owned? I don't know. Maybe I just asked the wrong questions. I don't think so, but maybe. Okay. So flow and adaptation and then mindset. Okay. And we'll talk about that here shortly because there's more to mindset than just the commitment to win, right? Kill or be killed, that kind of stuff, right? So there's a balance in here, right? Awareness, calmness, that kind of stuff, right? And handling things in a way where you're avoiding panic and things like that, okay? So anyway, we're cutting short on time here. So let's jump into 7 prerequisites for you, right? I went through my notes and all that and came up with this list of skills and concepts that both teachers told me that are in the scrolls and that I found that I had to go through, I had to learn, and I had to develop with a certain level of proficiency. Not just learning it and not just being able to do it in the dojo. It had to be wired in, so it wasn't something that I did when I thought about it. It was something that it became a part of who I am. So it's just like we don't practice until we get something right. We practice until we can't get it wrong. Okay. We don't train to be able to do something, right? We train until the point where that assimilates in, okay? To where like somebody startles you and you do the whole turtle head kind of thing, right? Pulling things in. Well, shit, that's what everybody does, right? Flinching away from it, right? Okay. Come on, you train until somebody says boo, and when you move, it has a semblance of kamae to it because your brain's taking a vacation, and that moment and that action you go to, that tells you how close you are to having your kamae be the thing that will happen automatically during the cognitive gap when somebody surprises you. Okay? It's one of those implied nuances in the term Banpen Fugyo. No surprises. No surprises for the ninja. That doesn't mean you can't be surprised. It means you understand that you can be surprised and you train a certain way so that you take advantage of, or you understand and rewire flinch responses so that it serves you when you're not paying attention, when you're not operating on full bore, when you're not paying attention yet. Okay? Okay. Remember, the bad guy always gets to the fight before you do. And I don't mean physically, I mean mentally. You could be going, what the hell does she want me to bring home after class? Okay? Or after work, okay? Standing outside the car at the grocery store. Next thing you know, you've been hit once or twice before you even realized, shit, I'm being attacked. Okay? It's not like in the dojo. It's not like in a sport ring. Really? Okay? That's not self-defense. That's a mutually agreed upon contest. Right? We always start from a negative. In Goshin Jutsu, we always start from a negative. We always start from where we are, the state, condition, emotional sense or state that we're in, all that. This is not this fantasy world that all these tough guys like to believe is self-defense. They're not the same. They're not mutually inclusive. Okay? All right, so these are skills and concepts that I have been taught and come to believe, right? But to make it safer on everybody else so they can take these as suggestions and do what the hell they want and ignore the rest, okay? Let me use a common term. In my humble opinion, not my humble opinion, other people's that I've gone through training with, okay? So first one, situational awareness. I'm going to fly through these because I just need to give you the list, okay? This is not just freaking paying attention. Well, everybody knows situational awareness. I said, pay attention. Really? Then why the hell did you trip over your coffee table? Right? Why'd you bump into that door frame? Okay? Why, when somebody was talking to you or calling your name, 15 freaking times? Did it take that long until you went, what? Really? Okay, interesting, right? What are we talking about in that situation? We're talking about understanding environment. We're talking about potential threats. What are the flags, right? What are the red flags that tell you there might be an impending threat? I don't know. Unless I develop the skill and the ability to create a baseline for activity, energy, movement, all that kind of stuff in this particular environment. A family restaurant baseline for activity, dress code, what do you call them? Volume of people talking, that kind of stuff, right? What's normal, dishes crashing in the kitchen, all that kind of stuff. Very different from a high-end restaurant, very different from a fast food restaurant, okay? Very different from a bar on Tuesday as opposed to the same bar on Friday or Saturday night. What's the baseline, okay? Without establishing a baseline, Boca's region, both sides, doesn't know what to filter out. So it'll filter out either everything or nothing. And now you're overwhelmed. And unless we filter out the mundane and the unimportant because we know what they are, the amygdala, the first part of your defensive early warning system in your system, right, won't know what stands out as requiring attention. Okay, so is that in the scrolls? Nope. It's modern science backing up why this shit is what it is. Okay, it's understanding the dynamics of a confrontation, that kind of thing, right? In this case, with Tantojutsu, right? One of the things that we should probably pay attention to is not just that he has a knife. What kind of knife? Because a K-bar or a butcher knife or a cleaver is way freaking heavier. That's going to have a very different swing and cut dynamic, right? It's going to control him as much as he's trying to control me. And that's very different from just like a little folder, a little pocket knife kind of thing, or a sword or a machete or whatever, right? These are all different. Single edge, double edge, how thick is the blade, that kind of thing. That's all part of that first D, discern, when we're paying attention to things, right? It includes recognizing escape routes. Do we even know how to assess escape routes, right? Obstacles, attackers' movements, that kind of stuff. Can we read his fight style? Okay? That kind of stuff, right? Second one is distance management. Distance management. In our art, this is called ma'ai. Okay? Ma'ai, that's not my. This is ma'ai and this is ma'ai. No. Ma'ai means distance. Okay? Anyway, sorry, right? Distance management. Other terms you might hear is controlling the kukan, that kind of stuff, right? In Hatsumi Sensei's Quest series that started, oh my God, way freaking back. I think Koto-Ryu was the very first. It was like number one. Anyway, what are they, in the hundreds now? The title of the series isn't Nijutsu. It's not Bujinkan. It's Masaki Hatsumi's Martial Arts of Distance. Okay? Because rule number one, from the man, from Takamatsu Sensei, not from me, is he or she who controls the distance controls the fight. Okay? So mastery of maintaining proper distance is absolutely crucial for effective evasion, countering, that kind of stuff. Okay? So this involves understanding how to close or create space quickly, right? As needed. Right? How do my legs work to do that? Okay? How does control of my balance and the way I shift it and where I initiate speed up or slow down the body? Right? I have students in the intermediate phases of training where they'll line up with their partner and their partner's all set up, whether they have a knife or just fist or whatever. And I'll look over and go, no, you're way too close, dude. What do you mean? Like he can't like jab at me. Yeah, he can. It only takes a little shuffle. And he's going to move half his body width more forward. You need to be a step or a step and a half from his normal gait, right? So that he has to take a step to get you. Okay? Neutralizing jabs are really, really easy, but to do that, you have to control distance. You have to make it so that the jab won't land. And if you know the jab won't land, then your limbic system won't cause you to flinch when he jabs because you know he can't touch you anyway. If you can't trigger the flinch response, he doesn't break your kamae. It's the purpose of a jab. Same thing as the purpose of a tsuki, to break your kamae. right? He jabs, you bob and weave, right? You bob. Why does he come up with an angular uppercut? Because he does the same fight system, and he knows when you bob, right? Weave your ass into nappy nap time. Okay. So anyway, next, timing. Okay. I was just talking to my long distance advanced students last night, and for Nidon, I require the student to have a working proficiency with 3 types of timing. One we would call coordination. It's a timing of our body parts with each other and the whole. What we might call mirroring, right? Where I'm matching his speed, I'm matching his distance, I'm maintaining that kukan as we go, right? Until I can disrupt it, right? And then another one we might call rhythm, or there's another closer term to this is breathing, or the breath of the fight, which is back and forth, give and take kind of thing, and being able to sense that so you can ride it or disrupt it, right? So up to Nidon, we have people riding it. After that, you ride until you can disrupt, right? But coincidentally, the Japanese don't have a word for timing. Right? If you've ever been to Hombu or to any seminar and the Japanese teacher is speaking Japanese and a translator is translating, they'll use the term timing. But the Japanese, if you listen to the Japanese teacher, he's saying timingu, which is the Japanese way to pronounce the word timing. Right? The word we're talking about is ritsudo, which actually implies more of a rhythm, breath. That timing is in there, but it's an aspect. The Japanese don't have a word for that. Okay. One word, one that like we think of it. Okay. Next one is body mechanics. Okay. How does the human body work? How do I know how it works so I can keep mine in the strong positions and force him to operate from a weak position? When you're in the underdog, you got to make his body backfire on itself. Okay. So we need to have a solid foundation in body mechanics. We need to be at a certain point where that it doesn't just enhance our ability to like generate power during movement and with very small movements, but to also maintain balance during movement. Okay. For a lot of people, they tend to fall to kamae. They tend to fall to kamae. So they're falling off a stiffened leg, or they move around on bent knees, but not bending knees. Okay. So what is the ground leg doing when they're moving? It's actually holding me and lowering me. The base leg is proactive. So I'm not just falling off a stilt. Okay. So again, this is really, really important for executing techniques effectively while also staying grounded. Okay. So we need to be able to move freely, but also be grounded. Right. For a lot of people, that's a contradiction. Okay. And it's because they don't understand that there's more than just a thing happening. Well, you're stepping back with your foot. Really? That's all that's happening. How many muscles are involved in that simple action? All right. All right. Next one is flexibility and fluidity. Fluidity, right? Flexibility and fluidity, not mutually inclusive. Right. So developing flexibility. And again, most people tie this to this, right? Flexibility to body mechanics, to body movement. But flexibility here, the type of flexibility we're developing is not just physically, we're not just developing it physically, right? But also mentally, okay? Emotionally, spiritually, I don't mean religion, right? Doing this and becoming fluid and adaptable and flexible allows situations to change slowly or quickly and us not lose our bearing. Right? These things they cross over to each other as well, but this allows us to adjust our techniques and approaches to response to changing conditions, right? To the dynamics of what's going on. Right? I remember training with Manaka when he was a Daishihan in the Bujinkan. He was Hatsumi Sensei's right-hand man. Now he's known as Unsui, right? The head of the Jininkan. We were doing this training, and we would get somebody on the ground and have them in like an arm bar, right? Have their knee right up against their elbow, have this arm bar going on. And what he was teaching was how to shift and change that, right? So we can adapt, right? You have always have 3 joints minimum locked at the same time, so you can control multiple lines of movement. But you're controlling these things, but when you're doing that, you also have access to his spine, his organs, those kind of things, right? So interesting, right? So I need to be able to adapt. Even after I take the person down and so-called lock him up, I still need to be able to adapt. Most people, again, I'm not getting into fights with a lot of these people because they're really, really good at what they do, and I don't fight for a contest. But if we're not careful, when we move from one position to do the next thing, let's say I have a ganseki and he resists, right? My joints and everything should be in a position that I can punch him in the head or I can elbow him in the ribs and not give up the lock I have on his arm at the same time. I was just demonstrating that yesterday morning in a class. Okay. Next one is control techniques. I just started hinting about that. Right. Control techniques. Okay. This is restraints. This is, those kind of things. Understanding how to control an opponent's body through techniques that apply leverage and pressure points, Kyusho, that kind of thing, right? Really, really important for managing an aggressive attacker without resorting to brute force. As soon as you resort to brute force, you're now fighting big muscle groups against big muscle groups. Whoever has the bigger muscle groups has the advantage. Right? Whoever has more size, more leverage, has the advantage. We can't fight the same way because we're preparing. If you're the bigger guy, or it's at least even, you can do whatever you want. Right? But we're training to be able to deal with somebody who has the advantage. Right? Part of this is from being Army cop, working with federal agencies, counterterrorist, just dealing with, working with different teachers and whatnot, right? The reality is that somebody who decides to jump you on the street or target you or whatever, right? Nobody looks at you from across the street and goes, I think he can kick my ass. I think I'll jump him. Nobody does that. This is a predator-prey dynamic. And like all predators, they cut the weak one from the herd or the one they think is the weak one, which is why we carry ourselves around very humbly, because won't that be a surprise? Anyway, all right? So again, we're still avoiding brute force, okay? And then the last one is psychological preparedness. Psychological prep, okay? I started that with, if you don't have to, don't. If you screw this up, your family better look good in black, that kind of stuff, right? You're going to get cut, all that kind of stuff. This is all part of psychological preparedness, but it doesn't stop there, okay? Mental training, again, equally important, okay? Drop the assumptions, drop the tough guy bullshit kind of stuff, because as Hatsumi Sensei wrote an article about, pride goes before the fall, right? You have that oh shit moment and realize, that's why big guys who come to our training that want to learn ninja stuff often quit, because you got some little 120-pound woman applying a knee leverage takedown and it bruises their ego and their tailbone, but it bruises their ego because they have a hard time getting their head wrapped around somebody half or less their size being able to take them down that easily. Okay, what they want to be is more powerful, but they don't understand that we're going to make you more powerful. Look how easy that was. How cool will that be when you can do that? Okay, so but practitioners should develop the ability, this is a big one, to remain calm under pressure and maintain focus, right? These priorities during a confrontation, okay? And the only thing that I would leave folks with is to ask ourselves, when the wife yells at us, or the boss says we didn't do something or whatever, or the situation changes, okay? Or there's a deadline looming, what do? Okay? You start yelling and screaming and get disoriented and panic and God damn, whatever, I'm quitting and all that kind of stuff, or start blaming the corrupt of the world or whatever, or you just start to look for, okay, and prioritize and, okay, how do I put these elements in order, even if it's not the way it's normally done, to meet that deadline? That's what professionals do. That's what people with seasoned, comfortable, confident experience do. Okay? But if we can't control our own head and our own heart, in a situation, you know what they say, right? Control your life or somebody else will control it for you. That's not just against the government and all kinds of other, illusory or real threats that are out there. That's true. Right? If we can't control our head and our heart in a fight, it's going to get in our way one way or the other. Okay? It's either going to be where we're distracted and they're going to kick our ass and we're going to the ER or the morgue, or we're going to cause collateral damage, or we're going to step outside the self-defense doctrine, we're going to exceed use of force and all that, and then the next problem we have to deal with, maybe multiple guys or girls coming at us with something very, very different in the prison shower. Unless that's already your leaning, it's probably not where you want to go. Anyway, so again, in addition to literally being unarmed against weapon wielding, right, attackers, not that I ever think that's possible, right? I mean, once you get to a certain point in training, there's always shit laying around, right? Okay. Being unarmed, that's just, I have a hard time wrapping my head around that. And even if I were naked alone in a room, which should be a distraction in and of itself, but even if I were, and this guy comes at me with a knife or whatever, my mindset is, oh, knife. Thanks for bringing my weapon. I appreciate it. Because if you're confident and you know your shit, then he brought your weapon to the fight for you. You didn't even have to carry it. Right? Being unarmed, as long as I got this and I'm upright, things are different, right? Okay. So again, also remember, in Tantojutsu, it's not just always us being unarmed against taijutsu or against tanto, knife, whatever, okay? Anytime we're using small arms, we could have it. The essence of all those arts is still Muto-Dori, okay? So kind of snuck that in on you, right? But again, just to round it out, Muto-Dori emphasizes adaptability, fluidity, strategic control over brute force in combat situations, okay? So to effectively apply these principles in real life scenarios, right, we've got to cultivate a range of skills from situational awareness all the way down to mental resilience, okay, so that we can make this happen. But it's not just for Muto-Dori. This is in everything that we do, right? It enhances and improves our ability to navigate threatening situations with confidence, calm, and effectiveness, okay? Right. So that's it for this week. Again, post a comment down below on whatever platform you're on about your biggest aha moment from this training or your biggest question for progress. We tried to check in on them all. Okay. Remember to get signed up there for the Friday class. We're going to be doing some literally unarmed against knife stuff so we can look at these principles in action. Okay. Also, if you're not a subscriber to the, the Whiteboard Wednesday list that we have, through the website and whatnot, you can go to onlineninjaacademy.com right down there, but right where the slash is, it is Warriors-Whiteboard-Wednesday. Sign up. There's also a whole bunch of back trainings there that are available. And if you're looking for somebody to help you go beyond the tight end, right, just the physical techniques of the art to the level of strategic and tactical control, often my students call me the strategy and tactics guy, schedule a call, okay? So you can send an email to Warrior and the letter C at warrior-concepts-online.com and put call request in the subject line. And seriously, right? Let's discuss your goals. Let's discuss next steps. Whether you train with me after that or not, doesn't matter, right? Let's talk about your sticking points and things like that and see if I can't give you some help moving on. And then if you want to talk about it, then we can talk about how you can get involved. But that's not my agenda. When you schedule one of these things, my agenda is to see where you are, what your sticking points are, what your goals are, and what you're already working on so we can do next step kind of things or to get you unstuck, okay? Regardless of whether you train with me or not, okay? I can't go beyond that, right? So that's it. Hopefully I'll see you in the Friday class. And if not, then I'll see you next week on Warriors Whiteboard Wednesday.